Welcome back for another edition of math videos and stuff at home. Well, welcome. We are doing 1.2. We're moving right along, and I'd say we're moving quite well. So before we were solving simple equations, now we're going to move and start solving, you guessed it, multi-step equations. Boo! So, the main difference here is that instead of having to do one operation, either adding or subtracting as an inverse, or multiplying and dividing as an inverse, we have to decide whether to do adding and subtracting and then do some more add or multiplying and dividing. It'll become pretty clear. Now, what I want you guys all to do, you get points for this, is to underline the key essential question. How can you solve a multi-step equation? How can you check the reasonableness of your solution? All these answers should be reasonable. If they're not, well, you should take another look at it. So let's begin here. If you happen to be working with someone, this would be a great time to work with a partner, because it says so. We're going to be going back to triangles. You can use a protractor if you need, but just know a quick way to know if your answer is reasonable or not is a right angle is like a corner of a piece of paper, and that's 90 degrees. Anything greater than 90 is going to be a number greater than 90 degrees. Anything greater than a right angle. Anything less than 90 will be an acute angle and will be smaller. So for example, we know that angle N is going to be less than 90 degrees. Let's set up. Okay. Let's work on triangle A off to the left side here. We know that n plus n plus 42 equals 180. Because all the angles in a triangle add up to 180. Now let's combine like terms like we did before. N plus n is 2n plus 42 equals 180. Now if we remember from last year, if we want to solve for a variable, you have to move the things that are farthest away. In this case, 42 is the farthest away from n. Now, not 180, because it's on the other side of the equals. We don't care about anything else over there. So the inverse operation of plus 42 is minus 42. And we'll do it to both sides, because that's what you do every time. What's the inverse operation of 2 times n? Would be n divided by 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. And 158 divided by 2 is 69. 69 degrees. That's what n equals. So, for our angle measurements, it said find the angle measures of each triangle. So it would be 69 degrees. Let's set up number 2, or B rather. Triangle B is going to be similar. We add up all of the angles, so x plus 10 plus x plus 5 equals 180. Let's combine all of our like terms. We have x plus x plus x, so that would be 3x, and we have 10 plus 5 plus 15 equals 180. And then subtract 15 from both sides, because it's farthest away from where the variable is. So we're left with 3x equals 180 minus 15 is 165. Divide both sides by 3. That simplifies, and we're left with some long division of 165 divided by 3. 3 goes into 16, 5 times remainder 1. 3 goes into 15, 5 times. So it looks like x equals 55 degrees. Now let's plug that back in to find out what each angle measure is. 55. X plus 10 would be 65 degrees. And x plus 5 would be 60 degrees. So the question is, does this check out? Does 55 plus 65 plus 60 equal 180? 55 plus 65 is 120 plus 60, and 120 plus 60 is 180 equals 180. We've done some fantastic math. I will help you set up equations for triangles C and D, and you will need to finish them on your own. So if we were to add up all the angles in this triangle C, we would have Q. Oops, I started spelling Q. Q plus Q plus 3Q, or 1 plus 1 plus 3 equals 5Q, equals 180. 5Q, combined like terms, equals 180, and you can do the rest. Triangle D, I'll help you set it up. The M plus 2M plus M plus 10 equals 180. M plus 2M is 3M plus 4M plus another M would be 4M plus 10 equals 180. Then you can do the rest. I suggest working with this first. Some tips about triangle E and F is that this little boxy square thing, that equals 90 degrees every single time. By this point, you guys should be ready to complete these two triangles on your own. If not, I can of course help you in class when you get there, but I at least want to see things like right angle equals 90. Flip the page and we'll be solving a little, almost a puzzle. So it says 6 triangles form a rectangle, or these 6 triangles form a rectangle. Find the angle measures of each triangle, and you can use a protractor if you want to see if your answers are reasonable or not. Now, this is a fun little puzzle because we can go through, and as we get more information, the more we know, the more we know. So right off the bat, I see that angle T is a right angle, and we determine that that is 90 degrees. Now that we found this right angle, look, we have 2 of the same variable in this triangle, so we know that 90 plus x equals 180, or 90 plus 2x equals 180. Subtract 90 from both sides, so we get 2x equals 90. 180 minus 90 is 90. And x equals 45. Divide both sides by 2. Let's write that down here. So we know that t equals 90 degrees. And now we know that x equals 45 degrees. Let's keep looking and see what we can find. In this middle triangle, we have n plus n plus n. That equals 180. So let's combine some like terms over here. If we have 3n, so 3n equals 180. Divide both sides by 3. So we have n equals 60. N equals 60. Let's find some angles that we already know. T plus 5 and n. So this angle would be 95. This angle we now know as 60. How might we determine what angle W is? 95 plus 60 plus W equals 180. You can solve that one on your own. You can solve angle F once you know angle W, because F plus W equals 90. It's a nice puzzle. We can find angle P. How might you ask? Well, we know that angle X is 45 We know that angle N is 60, and we know that all of these combined, these angles equal 180 degrees. So x plus n plus p equals 180, and we know x and n, so you can solve for p, which then gives us this p. And if we know two angles out of a triangle, it can help us solve for the mystery third, or angle M. Here's another p that we know, which means we can now find angle y, because we know both p and f. If we know angle p, we can find angle s, because p plus s equals 90. And over here, since we know angle n, oh, and we already know angle m. We found that earlier. Or if you want to find angle m another way, be n plus m equals 90. Hint, hint. M is 30, and n is 60. And lastly, you can get angle K, because we know angle M and S. For activity 3, another type of puzzle, and everything is going to be organized on the other page. There's a nice little table over there for us. So, when they want to know how many degrees are in each part of the circle, we can record that on the following page as a table. So I will help you set up our table. Go ahead and copy down this table just like I draw it. Let's add some titles in here. Degrees. Below that, put percent. And below that, put people. In each of these boxes, put the days of the week. Monday. Now, in each of these boxes, we're going to have the number of degrees, degrees, percent, people, for each part of the circle on the previous page. Don't get scared by this area. I'll try to avoid it. So, let's first answer A. How many degrees are in each part of the circle? This one is very easy for Wednesday, because Wednesday has the little right angle symbol. That's 90. So you can add 90 degrees to your Wednesday part. So check it out. I'm doing this for the third time because I screwed it up, which means it's okay to make mistakes. So check it out. If we want to solve for x, because if we can solve for x, we can find the rest of the angles really easy. We just plug x back in. We can do it the hard way or the easy way. The hard way would be to add up x plus 3/2 x, because we know that equals 90. So let's do that real quick. X plus 3/2 x equals 90. That's combined like terms. So if you have 3/2 is the same as 1.5. So if you add one more to that, that's 2.5. If we do 2.5 into a mixed number, 2 times 2 plus 1 equals 5/2. Or if we have common denominators, we know that there is a 1 next to x. And if we have common denominator of 2, that's the same as saying 2 over 2x plus 3 over 2x, which equals 5 over 2x, equals 90. In order to solve for x, the best way we can do that is to multiply by reciprocal. It's dividing by 5/2 or multiplying by the reciprocal, same thing. 2 over 5 times 2 over 5. Let's do some math magic. That turns into 1. X is by itself. Now, let's multiply straight across. 90 times 2 equals 180. 1 times 5 is 5. Now let's do some long division to figure out what 180 divided by 5 is. 5 goes into 18 3 times. 3 times 5 is 15. 18 minus 15 is 3. Drop the 0. 5 goes into 30 6 times, and voila! X equals 36. degrees, or just 36. It's degrees when it's outside of the... Now, that was the hard way. I want to show you guys a little easier way. You see how this is a straight line that goes in the middle of the circle? Well, straight lines are a total of 180 degrees. Last year's 8th graders learned this at the end of the year. We're going to learn it at the beginning of the year. And then we'll know it all year long. So, riddle me this. If 2x plus 3x equals 180, can we solve? Of course we can. Let's combine like terms. 5x equals 180. Wait a second, we've seen this before. If we divide both sides by 5, we already saw that 180 divided by 5 equals 36. So we found x. What do we do with this information? Let's plug x into each of these equations. So Monday would be 36 degrees. Tuesday, we're going to do Tuesday's math to the left over here. 36 times 3 halves. If you remember some fancy math magic, remember we could either multiply 36 and 3, or we can first divide 36 by 2 and then multiply. Let's multiply straight across. So we have 36 times 3. 3 times 6 is 18. Carry the 1. 3 times 3 is 9. Plus 1, it's 108 over 2. 108 divided in half equals 54. So Tuesday is 54 degrees. 3 times 36, we literally just did up here. That equals 108. So we know that Thursday is 108 degrees. 108. And lastly, 2 times 36. 36 times 2. 2 times 6 is 12. Carry the 1. 2 times 3 is 6. Plus 1 is 7, or 72 degrees. Let's fill out the information on our table. Ta-da! Forgot to show you. Now we need to figure out what percent of the people chose each day. This can happen very easily. All you need to do for each day is do the degrees for that day divided by 360, and that'll give you a decimal number, and then convert that decimal number into a percent by moving the decimal place over 2 times 1, 2. And that'll be what you'll write for each of those values. So I can do the first one for you. Monday would be 36 divided by 360. That equals 0.1. Move the decimal place over twice. 1, 2. And that equals 10%. So we can write in 10% for Monday. Use that same operation to fill out the rest of the percentage. The last thing we need to do is answer C, how many people choose each day. This is also quite simple. If you've been showing your work, all you need to do is multiply the 200. Each operation will be just the same. 200 times the percent, but as a decimal number. So for Monday, it would be 0.10, or 10%. And that will equal how many people? So in this case, 200 times 10% would be 20. So 20 people chose Monday as their favorite weekday. Yippee-yi-yay. So under Monday people, put 20. Please fill out the rest of your chart using those nifty equations. The last thing we need to do is use some words. How can you solve a multi-step equation? How can you check the reasonableness of your solution? In solving a multi-step equation, the first thing to do is to simplify. Whether that be parentheses or combining like terms, parentheses, you can write it down just like this on your paper, or like terms. I'm keeping it short for you, David. After we simplify, the next thing we need to do is the inverse of adding or subtracting. And lastly, what we need to do is, you guessed it, the inverse of multiplying or dividing. How can we check the reasonableness of a solution? You can plug the variable in the original equation. This has been Video Math, and I'll see you next time.